My parents and my sister wouldn't stop calling, one after another, asking about the chocolates. Their voices were casual at first, almost fake cheerful, like they were checking in out of politeness. I didn't think much of it. So I told them, calmly, that I'd already given the entire box to my little brother and the kids. That's when everything snapped. The line went quiet for a split second, then all three of them started talking at once. Shouting. Panicking. Asking the same question in different ways, like they hadn't heard me correctly. The chocolates were my birthday gift. An insanely expensive, handcrafted box that showed up at my downtown Columbus apartment earlier that day. Wrapped in cream-colored paper, tied with a satin ribbon, with a card that read, "Happy Birthday. Love, Dad and Monica." I'm Zora Hale, 35 years old. Forensic accountant. Single. No kids. And I learned a long time ago that gifts from that side of the family never came without strings. I don't even like chocolate that much. I especially didn't want something sitting in my kitchen that smelled like obligation and old family drama. So that afternoon, I drove out to Dublin, to the house I grew up in. I walked straight in without knocking. My 12-year-old brother Eli was sprawled on the living room floor with my sister's kids, Noah and Julian, all noise and chaos like always. I handed them the unopened box. "These came for me," I said lightly, "but you guys will enjoy them more." They didn't even wait for me to sit down. The box was torn open on the carpet. Chocolate everywhere. Sticky fingers. Laughing. I didn't take a single piece. I left 5 minutes later, feeling oddly relieved. That night, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. First Dad. Then Monica. Then Lauren. All of them asked the same thing. "Did you eat any of the chocolates?" I laughed, thinking they were being dramatic. "No. I gave the whole box to Eli and the kids this afternoon." Silence. Then all three of them screamed, almost in unison, "You did what?" That was the moment my stomach tightened, but I still didn't understand why. If you've ever received a family gift that made your gut drop the second you realized it wasn't love, you'll understand this feeling. The kind of moment where something feels wrong, but you can't name it yet. I was brushing my teeth when Dad called again. "Sorry, at the chocolates," he said, voice shaking. "Did you eat any?" I sighed. "No, Dad. I already told you. Eli and the kids ate them." "Why do you keep asking?" Dead silence. Then a sound, half breath, half sob. The call ended. 10 seconds later, Monica called. "How many pieces did Eli eat?" she demanded. "Tell me exactly." Her voice was hysterical, nothing like the controlled, icy woman I knew. "At least 5. The kids had a bunch too." "What's going on?" She made a sharp, gasping noise and hung up. Then Lauren. She was already crying. "Please tell me you're lying. Please say you ate some." My heart started pounding. I didn't touch a single piece. "Someone tell me what's happening." She screamed my name, and the call cut off. I stood there in my bathroom, toothbrush still in my hand, staring at my phone, trying to understand how chocolate had just turned 3 grown adults into wrecks. Less than 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. "This is Nationwide Children's Hospital Emergency Department," a calm voice said. "We have your brother Eli Hale and your nephews Noah and Julian in critical condition." My world went completely silent. I don't remember the drive to the hospital. I remember fragments. Red lights blurring into white. My hands shaking on the steering wheel so badly I had to grip harder just to stay in the lane. I remember thinking this had to be a mistake. Kids don't end up in critical condition because of chocolate. Brothers don't almost die because of birthday gifts. But the automatic doors of Nationwide Children's Hospital slid open with a loud whoosh, and the smell of antiseptic hit me like a punch to the chest. I ran. A nurse intercepted me near Triwish, guided me to a chair I didn't remember sitting in. A doctor followed moments later. Mid-40s. Tired eyes. Serious mouth. The kind of face that doesn't soften news. All 3 children experienced sudden seizures followed by cardiac arrest, he said carefully. They collapsed within minutes of each other. My ears rang. That's not possible, I whispered. They were fine this afternoon. We stabilized them, he continued. But their hearts stopped twice in the ambulance. Blood panels show a massive spike in a fast-acting cardiotoxic agent. Cardiotoxic. The word echoed in my head, bouncing against my skull like it couldn't find a place to land. This wasn't accidental, he added quietly. We are running full toxicology screens. I must have swayed, because suddenly a nurse was holding my arm, lowering me back into the chair. My brain replayed the phone calls from earlier. The panic. The shaking voices. The way they hadn't asked if the kids were okay, only whether I had eaten the chocolates. They weren't afraid the gift would hurt me. They were afraid it wouldn't. The realization slammed into me so hard I had to fall forward, my head in my hands. The sounds of the ER faded into a dull roar. Beeping machines. Distant crying. Footsteps rushing past. The chocolates were never meant to make it past tonight. Hours passed. Or minutes. I couldn't tell. Finally, a nurse led me to the pediatric ICU. Eli lay in the bed closest to the door, tubes everywhere, skin so pale it barely looked real. Beyond the curtain, I could hear the soft mechanical breathing of Noah and Julian. I took Eli's hand. It felt too small. Too cold. The machines beat steadily, mocking me with their calm. Sometime near morning, his eyelids fluttered. He focused on me slowly, like it took effort. Tears welled up immediately. Zora, he rasped. His voice was raw from the tube they'd just removed. I'm sorry. My throat closed. Sorry for what, buddy? He glanced toward the curtain, then back at me. Monica told me the box was only for you, he whispered. She said don't eat any. Just give it to you and leave the room. My blood turned to ice. What exactly did she say? I asked softly. He swallowed. That it was a special grown-up treat. That the kids weren't allowed. She made me promise. I kissed his forehead, told him to rest, told him he was safe. Then I walked out of the room on legs that barely worked. Back at my apartment, I tore through drawers until I found the gift bag they'd used for shipping. The chocolates were gone, eaten hours ago, but the thick cream-colored tissue paper and gold seal sticker were still crumpled at the bottom. I lifted the paper to my nose. Under the faint cocoa scent was something sharp. Metallic. Wrong. My forensic training kicked in. I sealed everything into a clean evidence bag I kept from work, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to an independent lab in German Village. I paid triple for same-night screening and didn't ask questions. While I waited, I didn't go home. I drove to Dublin. The porch light was on. No one answered the door. I used the key I'd never returned and stepped inside. Robert sat hunched on the couch, staring at nothing. Monica paced the kitchen doorway, phone clenched white-knuckle tight. Lauren stood by the fireplace, arms wrapped around herself, eyes swollen and red. The air felt thick enough to choke on. I didn't bother with greetings. "Eli's awake," I said flatly. "And he told me everything." Monica froze mid-step. Robert's head snapped up. Lauren whimpered. I lifted my phone. The red recording dot glowed. "Start talking." For a moment, no one spoke. The silence in the living room felt heavy, pressing down on my chest. The ticking wall clock sounded too loud, each second stretching longer than the last. Monica was the first to recover. She smoothed her hair, forced her face into something soft and concerned, the version she always used in public. "We're just terrified about the children," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound real. "You know how sensitive kids can be." "Maybe it was an allergy." "Stop," I said. The word came out flat. "Did." It cut through the room like a blade. "Eli said you told him the chocolates were only for me," I continued. "That he wasn't allowed to touch them." "Why?" Robert opened his mouth, then closed it again. His hands twisted together in his lap. Lauren's breathing turned uneven, like she was trying not to cry. Monica's expression slipped. "Not all at once. Just enough." "Because they were meant for you," she said, her voice sharpening. "You always take everything anyway." Robert finally spoke. "Monica, stop," she ignored him and stepped closer to me. "You hoard it," she hissed. "That money your mother left you just sits there while we struggle. One hard episode and it all comes to your father. To us." The room tilted. "You were supposed to be the only one who ate them," she continued, eyes blazing. "That was the plan." Lauren broke down completely. "We just wanted Eli to have a future," she sobbed. "Private school. Stability. You never share, Sora." "Never." I didn't say a word. I let the silence stretch. Let the phone keep recording every syllable, every confession. Robert looked 10 years older in seconds, his face gray, unable to meet my eyes. Monica suddenly seemed to realize what she'd said. Her hands fluttered, backtracking too fast. "I didn't mean, Zora, you know I didn't mean it like that. You meant every word," I said. I stopped the recording and slipped my phone into my pocket. "You just confessed to attempted murder," I added calmly. "Including 2 minors." Lauren gasped. Robert's shoulders sagged like something inside him finally broke. "Congratulations," I finished. "You're done." I turned and walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly through downtown Columbus, past the Scioto Mall, the river reflecting city lights like nothing in the world had changed. I drove until the sky lightened from black to gray, until my hands stopped shaking. When the sun came up, I walked into the most exclusive salon in Short North. "Make me look like someone who never loses," I told the stylist. 4 hours later, my hair was a sharp chestnut bob. Clean lines. No softness. Armor. My wardrobe followed, tailored black blazers, silk blouses, heels that clicked with purpose. The mirror showed someone new. Someone they would never see coming. My first stop was Michael Tran's office on East Gay Street. I'd worked cases with him before. He specialized in high-profile criminal and financial crimes. I placed my phone on his desk and played the recording once. His eyebrows rose slowly. "I'll have a search warrant by noon," he said, already reaching for his phone. "We'll seize the Dublin house, the remaining packaging, everything. And Zora, You need to lock down your assets today. By mid-afternoon, I sat in a trust attorney's office signing papers. Every dollar of the $1.9 million my mother had left me was moved into an irrevocable trust. Untouchable. Beneficiaries reassigned. Contest triggers activated. No one would ever get a cent. Michael called before I even left the building. Warrants are signed. Police are at the house. They found the shipping receipt and an empty container matching your tissue paper, he said. Then he paused. And Child Services just placed Eli under emergency custody. You're the only relative without a conflict. My chest tightened. File for guardianship, he continued. He can come home with you tonight. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. Something cold and permanent settled into my chest. That evening, I stood at the hospital discharge entrance as Eli walked out, pale and thin, backpack hanging from one shoulder. He stopped when he saw me, my new hair, my new clothes, the new version of his sister holding car keys. You came, he whispered. I opened the passenger door. Get in. You're coming home with me. Eli didn't say much on the drive back to my apartment. He stared out the window like the city might disappear if he looked away for too long. The hospital faded behind us, its lights shrinking into the distance, and with every mile, his shoulders dropped just a little. My apartment felt too quiet when we walked in. He hovered near the door, backpack still on, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to stay. I pointed to the couch. You can put your stuff there. Kitchen's that way. Bathroom's down the hall. He nodded, movements stiff, and curled into the corner of my gray sectional. Knees to his chest. Hoodie pulled tight. For the next 3 days, that's how he existed, small, silent, like he was trying to take up as little space as possible. I didn't push him. I left the TV on low, ordered foods he used to like, and went to work during the day so he wouldn't feel watched. At night, I sat on the opposite couch with my laptop open, pretending to answer emails while actually counting his breaths. On the 4th morning, I was cracking eggs into a pan when he wandered into the kitchen. He stood in the doorway twisting the drawstring of his hoodie until the plastic tip snapped off and skittered across the towel. Monica used to say it right to my face, he said quietly. I turned the burner down and waited. She'd sit me on the counter after school and tell me that once you weren't around anymore, we'd finally have enough money, he continued. That your mom's savings were supposed to be for the family. Not locked away with you. My hand tightened on the spatula. She said you were stealing my future, he whispered. I thought she was just mad. I slid 2 plates onto the counter and pushed one toward him. He picked at the eggs, then kept talking, the words coming faster once they started. Lauren would laugh and say private school was already paid for. They were just waiting on paperwork. Dad never told them to stop. He'd just stare at his phone like he couldn't hear. I said nothing. I let him empty himself out. I thought it was a joke, he added. Until the night before your birthday. Monica handed me the sealed box and said, whatever you do, don't open this. It's only for Zora. My phone buzzed non-stop in my pocket. Lauren's messages came first, pure venom. You're keeping my brother hostage. He needs his mother. You're going to pay for this. Then the tone flipped. He's asking for me every night. We can work this out as a family. Please. I read every message and didn't reply. That afternoon, a report landed in my inbox from Daniel Wu, the investigator Michael trusted most. I locked myself in a restroom stall at work to read it. Page after page detailed Monica's secret gambling life. Offshore betting sites. Crypto wallets. Payday loans with interest rates so high they bordered on criminal. Cash advances taken out the same week she mailed the chocolates. Total debt, $380,000. Some accounts were joined with Robert. Others hidden under Lauren's name, for emergencies. I forwarded the report to the prosecutor with one line, motive just got clearer. That evening, my doorbell camera lit up. Lauren. She stormed up the steps like a thundercloud and pounded on my door hard enough to rattle the frame. The building manager threatened to call the cops. I buzzed her in anyway. She burst into my living room, hair wild, mascara streaking down her face. Get your things, she snapped at Eli. You're coming home right now. Eli dropped the controller and backed toward me. I stepped between them. He's not going anywhere. Lauren laughed, sharp and broken. You think a piece of paper makes you his mother? He's my brother, I corrected calmly. And the state disagrees with you. She lunged past me, reaching for his arm. Eli flinched so hard he hit the coffee table. I caught her wrist. Touch him again and I call security. She yanked free, eyes blazing. You've always taken everything first. Mom's money. Now my brother. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Monica's recorded voice filled the room. Lauren collapsed to her knees. The recording ended, and the apartment fell into a silence so thick it felt unreal. Lauren was on her knees in the middle of my living room, hands clawing at the air like she was drowning. Her sobs came in sharp, broken gasps, echoing off the walls. Eli stood frozen behind me, fingers gripping the back of my sleeve like he was afraid I might disappear. I didn't want the kids hurt, Lauren cried. I swear. I thought you'd eat them alone. Please, Sora. He's all I have left. Eli stepped forward. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stood beside me, shoulders squared in a way that made him look older than 12. You stopped being my sister the day you helped try to kill her, he said quietly. Lauren's face crumpled completely. I handed her the papers Michael had delivered that morning. Civil suit, I said. Emotional distress. Medical expenses for 3 minors. Punitive damages. Her hands shook as she looked at the first page. This will ruin me. You already did that yourself, I replied. Take it to whatever lawyer you can still afford. And don't come back. She stumbled out of the apartment, still crying, the door slamming behind her like a final punctuation mark. That night, Eli fell asleep on the couch with the controller still in his hand. For the first time since the hospital, his breathing stayed slow and even. I sat in the dark watching the city lights flicker outside my window, knowing the real fight was only just beginning, but at least now we weren't facing it alone. 8 months later, we walked through the heavy doors of the Franklin County Courthouse on a morning so cold our breath hung in the air. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Every day, Eli and I sat in the same seats, second row, right side. He wore the same navy blazer that swallowed his shoulders. I wore charcoal suits sharp enough to make people uncomfortable. Reporters packed the back rows, whispers constant. Michael opened with science. The state toxicologist took the stand and explained the cardiotoxin in precise, clinical detail. How it forced potassium channels open. How a child's heart could stop in under 8 minutes. How the adult dosage in the chocolates would have been fatal. Then came the recording. Monica's voice filled the courtroom, cold and deliberate, describing how my sudden heart failure would look natural. Lauren's panicked justification followed. Robert's ragged breathing haunted the background. A juror in the front row visibly flinched. Daniel Wu testified next, projecting Monica's gambling history across a massive screen. Offshore bets. Crypto losses. Payday loans. The final transfer, exactly the amount for a private middle school tuition, 3 days before my birthday. Then Eli took the stand. He gripped the rail so hard his knuckles turned white. He told them everything. The whispers in the kitchen. The promises of a better future once I was gone. The sealed box handed to him with strict instructions. When the prosecutor asked why he was testifying against his own family, Eli looked straight at me and said, "Because my sister is the only one who ever chose me." The defense tried everything. Robert was painted as a weak man controlled by his wife. Monica claimed the recording was taken out of context. Lauren sobbed about her children and said she was threatened. The jury deliberated for just over 4 hours. Guilty on every charge. The judge's voice was calm as he read the sentences. Robert, 10 years. Monica, 15. Lauren, 12. Then the judge turned to Eli. "Do you understand what permanent guardianship means?" Eli stood without hesitation. "Yes, sir. It means I get to stay with Zora." So ordered. We left through a side exit as snow began to fall, thick and silent. In the parking garage, Eli finally shook, not crying, just trembling. I held him until it passed. As we drove away, he cracked the window, let the cold air rush in, and whispered, "I'm free." I kept my eyes on the road. "Yeah, kid," I said. "We both are." Some endings arrive loudly. Ours didn't. It arrived on an ordinary Sunday morning, with sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor and the smell of burnt toast drifting through the apartment. Eli stood at the counter, older now, broader in the shoulders, humming off-key while he scrolled through job offers on his phone. "San Francisco," he said. "Austin. Seattle." I poured coffee into 2 mugs. "Anywhere but Ohio." He smiled. "I'll always come back here. This is home." That word, home, used to terrify him. It meant rules that changed without warning, love with conditions, silence used as punishment. Now it meant safety. Choice. He took the offer in Seattle. On move-in day, I helped carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs, my niece protesting every step. His apartment was small but bright, with huge windows and a view of the water. We built furniture badly, laughed about it, and ordered takeout on the floor like we used to when money was tight and hope was thinner. That night, we stood on the balcony watching the city lights ripple across the bay. "I wouldn't be here without you," Eli said. "You would," I replied. "You're stronger than you think." He shook his head. "No. You stayed when everyone else made me a bargaining chip." He hugged me, long and steady, and for the first time I understood something important. Survival isn't just about escaping danger. It's about being seen. Life settled into a rhythm after that. We talked every Sunday. Sometimes about work, sometimes about nothing. Sometimes he'd call just to ask what I was cooking, like hearing the mundane anchored him to something solid. On my 50th birthday, he flew in unannounced. I opened the door and there he was, holding a lopsided cake that leaned dangerously to one side. "You forgot candles," I said. "Didn't forget," he replied. "You don't need reminders of age. You need reminders of impact." We ate cake straight from the box, laughing until my sides hurt. A month later, I received a letter from the parole board. Monica had applied for early release. I read it once. Then I fed it into the shredder, listening to the paper tear into nothing. Some people think closure means reopening doors. I disagree. Closure is knowing you don't need to. Years after the trial, a junior analyst at my firm asked me how I'd stayed so calm during the case that made national headlines. "How did you not fall apart?" she asked. I thought of hospital lights. Of poison hidden in chocolate. Of a boy brave enough to choose truth over blood. I built a life so full, I told her, there was no room left for fear. Eli visited that winter, bringing his girlfriend, Maura. She was kind in quiet ways, refilled glasses without asking, laughed at my dry jokes, held Eli's hand like it was a promise, not a claim. Later, when she went to bed, Eli lingered in the kitchen. "I'm thinking of proposing," he said, nervous like a kid again. I smiled. "She'd be lucky." "So would I," he said. Then, after a pause, "Would you walk me down the aisle?" The question hit harder than any courtroom verdict ever had. I blinked fast. I'd be honored. The wedding was small. No blood relatives from his side. Just friends, chosen family, people who knew how to love without keeping score. As Eli stood at the altar, I realized something else. Justice isn't revenge. It's distance. It's the ability to wake up without fear, to love without permission, to build a future that doesn't ask for forgiveness. As I watched Eli step into his new life, I understood the truth that had taken decades to learn: the family that tries to destroy you forfeits the right to watch you thrive. And the ones who stay, they become everything.